curry duck recipe, but this time it's part of the comfort food series. I think I'm gonna wrap this up maybe with this video or one more video, the whole comfort food series, and sporadically during the year I'll add some more. But curry duck, I didn't grow up enjoying curry duck. I didn't like curry duck. I didn't like anything about curry duck. As I got older, I started to appreciate it, especially when I started to make it for myself. And I've got 2 tablespoons of olive oil. You can use any oil that you like using. Oil is on a medium flame, and to that I have quite a bit of onion and garlic. That is 2 onions, sliced, medium onions, and about 12 to 14 cloves of garlic. I'm just going to turn my heat down ever so gently. To that, I've got some cumin seeds I'm going to add in there, and we call cumin jeera in the Caribbean, especially in Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana. Again, heat is at medium low now, and I just want to cook this down until we get that fragrance from the garlic and the onion and that cumin. It's been about 3 minutes. The onion and garlic has softened up. I'm not trying to risk burning the garlic, so at this point is when I'm gonna add the curry powder, and that is about 3.5 tablespoons of curry powder. Use your favorite curry powder. Now what I'm gonna recommend you do at this point is to turn the heat all the way down to low and let us sort of wet toast the curry powder in order to bloom the different spices. And when I say bloom, by heating it up, all those spices will release all of that true flavor. So we don't want to burn it, as I said earlier, but we really want to bloom it. Now I want you all to understand something. It's not as if mommy couldn't handle or make a good curry duck. Yeah, she used to. It's just that we didn't grow up eating a lot of curry. Curry chicken, curry potato, chana and aloo, that's about it when I really think about it, yeah? Baigan and aloo, yeah, sometimes, but for the most part, it was not so much curry. The full recipe will be available at CaribbeanPot.com. There's some older recipes of curry duck on there. This is a more updated version, but it is important. One of the key things when it comes to curry duck is to try and season it and allow it to marinate overnight, and that is what I have done. What I did do, however, when I went to the butcher, it's a Caribbean store down on Albion down there, I asked him to cut it Trini style, which means Trinidad style, whatever that means, but it means that it's tiny, small pieces, so maybe 1-inch pieces, except for the leg that you see there. It's a bit bigger. But what I did when I came home, I removed most of the skin, and I know a lot of people love the skin and everything else, but I am trying to keep away from high fat foods. So I removed most of the skin that I could. The wing and the leg, I left it on there, but for the most part I trimmed off all the fat, trying to make it a little bit lean. And I washed it because it's cut on a bandsaw, so the bones will have fragments or that sort of powder on there. So besides that, we wash our meat in the Caribbean. 2 limes, the juice of 2 limes in cool water, and I gave it a good rinse individually, all the pieces, and then I drained it. Salt, black pepper, ground masala, 2 heaping tablespoons of Caribbean green seasoning. And if you're new to Caribbean cooking, green seasoning or Caribbean green seasoning is just a puree or a blend of all the herbs we like using in our dishes. So it's just going to be scallion, thyme, shadow benny, parsley, Spanish thyme, all those different things, along with garlic and seasoning peppers for the most part. I don't put ginger in my green seasoning. However, in here I did put a tablespoon of grated ginger. You will see a tomato. That's just to bring the acidity. I love to balance off my flavors. 2 Scotch bonnet peppers because I like my curry duck spicy, and I season it with the Scotch bonnet peppers, and you can see the green there, that is the Scotch bonnet pepper. So for the most part, that is the seasoning that you see here. It's been marinating overnight. I brought it out about an hour or so out of the fridge just to bring it back up to room temperature. It's been about 5 minutes since I added the curry powder in here. So what I want to do now is turn up my heat to medium high. And if you wanted to add some water in here, Totally optional, and you would have seen me do that in a previous curry duck recipe. But in this one here, we're just going dry because I really want to bloom the flavors of all the spices. But again, we don't want to burn it. So after about a minute or so, we're going to add the seasoned duck to the pot, and your kitchen should have the lovely aroma of a wicked curry base. In goes that curry duck, the seasoned duck, to the pot. You're going to save this and you're going to add water to it. I should have used a bigger pot, but small thing. This will cook down. And what we want to do is make sure we sear the pieces of duck, and in doing so, we coat it with that lovely curry base that we created. Now remember, we have that masala already seasoned into the duck. So, you know, and some people want more curry in there. You can add more curry powder. It's totally up to you. What I will add later on is some anchar masala. I love anchar masala in my curry. Once I'm happy that it's been stirred properly and mixed in there, we got a little tappy tap, and we're gonna put the lid on there, and we're gonna allow that to sprout natural juices. It's been about 4 minutes, and you can see we have a vigorous bubble going there. And there is that natural juice I was talking about there, see? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna maintain, mess up the stove again, boy. Gosh, Chris, why you so? Anyhow, we're gonna maintain that bubble, but right now what we're gonna do, cover the pot, but slightly ajar, and let that continue cooking. It's been about 20 minutes, I've stirred it about 3 times already, and you see that vigorous bubble we got going, and the water is starting to burn off. So, what we're going to do is assist it in doing so. So we're going to remove the lid. We're going to turn up the heat. We want to burn off all that liquid, that natural juice that has sprouted up, and in doing so intensify the flavor so to infuse the pieces of duck. There's a science about this, boy, and I'm teaching all, yeah? We have to burn off that liquid. So that is the mission now. If you will indulge me, I'm just going to tighten this up a little bit, because I want you all to see what's happening here. You will start seeing the oil that we started off with. Now, if you had left the skin on the duck, you would see a lot more oil there, and that is one of the reasons why I like to trim off most of that skin as I can, because at the end of the day, we really don't need to be eating all that oil and all that. But the point is, we started to see the sort of oils that we started off with. So you can see the pot is dry at the bottom. This is where now. So since we added the duck in here, it's been anywhere from 25 minutes to 30 minutes. What we need to do now is add the braising liquid, because I like duck very tender, falling off the bone tender, because that's just the way mommy would cook just about everything for us, is nice and tender. So with that in mind, we need water in there to braise it. No, please don't come here with no stock, chicken stock, vegetable stock, beef stock talk. No, let's make something that will make Granny and them proud of us. They never use stock, yeah? They never use those cubes, they never use the all-purpose seasoning, all those things. And we grew up eating. If you were blessed to have a talented granny or grandma or nanny or whatever you call her. Well, in my case, yeah, I had still do, a real talented mommy. So, if you understand what I'm talking about, a lot of water, so we're going to bring that up to a boil. Then we're going to reduce it to a rolling boil, between a rolling boil and a simmer. And we're going to let that go for about 1 hour. At that point, we will do a few things. We will taste it for salt. We will adjust the salt. We will determine whether or not the consistency of the gravy is to our liking. And we're going to finish off with a bit of a herbal note. When we get there, I'll discuss all of those things. But if you wanted, here's the thing. This is just a sort of a road map. Yeah? If you wanted to change things up, you wanted to put some cinnamon in there, bay leaf, any one of those things that you love in your curry, you can put it in here. It's totally up to you. On that high heat, it only took about a minute for us to start seeing those bubbles starting to happen there. So at this point, what I like doing, I like some anchar masala. We're gonna hit that with some anchar masala. We're gonna continue cooking that now. We're gonna stir that in, of course. And we're gonna continue cooking that with the sort of guide that I mentioned earlier there. It's been just over 1 hour and I've stirred it a few times. You notice how the liquid have reduced. And here's where we're gonna personalize things. You're gonna make sure it's tender enough to your liking. You're gonna make sure the gravy, nice and thick, notice that? It's to your liking. And you're gonna taste it and adjust the salt. Here's the thing, the residual heat in this pot, this is a cast iron pot, it will further thicken up things, so keep that in mind. The other thing is, if whilst cooking you notice that you're really low on liquid, feel free to add more water. The sort of final touch we're going to add here, my sort of finishing touch, is a combination of parsley and a couple scallions that I chopped up. Now traditionally in Trinidad and Tobago they would use shadow benny, which is called culantro. If you don't have that, you can use cilantro. Lately, the cilantro isn't working for me. I don't like the taste of it anymore. And unfortunately, I don't have any shadow bennies. But what I'm gonna do now is stir that in. I'm gonna turn off the stove. I'm gonna put the lid on there and let that sit for about 5 minutes before I get to it. Simply because I want the onion and the parsley to soften up and make, the flavors in there kind of, it has to make its way in there. Sup, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me, email address down here. I mean, trying to tell people the email address, them butts will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at Caribbean Pod. I really appreciate you guys and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irene?